Sorry, we missed some good content on that one because I was an idiot and muted the microphone. So lesson 1, check your sound. All right, well, let's just start from square one.
Yeah, sounds good.
So for those of you guys joining me right now, this is the Personal Branding and Motorsports series, and I'm going to take advantage of my good friend Andrew Evans here. Andrew races prototype vehicles in the LMP3 series. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It is gnarly AF. But long story short, we're going to try and take advantage of some of the people that I'm fortunate enough to work with that have some great experience in this industry and the pitfalls and I guess pros and cons of the whole thing. So real quick, Andrew, just introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, how old you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Andrew Evans. I'm from Seattle, Washington. So I'm 20, and like you're saying, I race Le Mans prototypes, or more specifically LMP3. For those of you who don't know, look it up. It is incredibly cool. The technology that goes in these vehicles is astonishing, honestly. Yeah, so I mean, a little bit about me. I've been racing for pretty much as long as I can remember. I started when I was about 7. And since then, I've been able to do a lot of national and international categories in karting and also cars, starting at age 14. So just trying to live my dream and just chase with everything I have.
Love that, man. That's, yeah. I think we're all kind of trying to go for that.
Pretty cool, right?
So you obviously, you're at a pretty high level at this point. And there's, of course, there's always room to grow. But how have you found yourself where you're at? What's your background? What's your story? Where'd you get, or how did you get to where you are?
Yeah, so in 2017, I raced in a series called the British Prototype Cup. So it's kind of my first experience racing in Europe. Before then, like I was saying earlier, started when I was age 7 in karting, which I was fortunate enough for my parents to be able to pay for with the club racing and some of the national stuff. So when I was 14, after having a lot of success in some of the national championships here in North America, I got a scholarship into Lynx Racing, which is a really cool team, actually. They helped pay for my F1600 championship, which is pretty much a modern-day Formula Ford. So for those of you who don't know what that is, it's like a miniature IndyCar, or F1, with a 1.6-liter engine.
Open-wheel car, right?
Open wheel,
okay.
Yeah. And from there, I was able to kind of keep going up with some scholarships. And then eventually, a few years ago, I made a transition into prototype sports cars. And kind of pursuing the dream of 24 Hours of Le Mans. Ultimately, at the end of the day, racing is money. But the beauty of sports car racing is that as a young racing driver, I do have opportunities with quote-unquote gentleman drivers who are able to kind of subsidize or help pay for you to be there with them. So if you're fast enough, got enough connections, it certainly pays to have some good people behind you.
So you're mostly doing multi-driver events, which would be essentially endurance races, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So just for people that don't know this industry
Absolutely.
at all, what is a gentleman driver?
So for those who don't know, so in sports car racing, which are maybe up to 24-hour long races or even 8-hour long races, you typically have at least 2 drivers. So how it breaks down is you typically have a very talented young racing driver or a very fast driver who's a pro, and then you typically have a quote-unquote gentleman driver who is a gentleman who actually pays to be there racing. So a few years ago, racing found that we can't sustain these costs with paying for pro drivers or sponsorship alone. So a lot of championships now require a pro driver and an amateur driver, quote-unquote. So the amateur driver is a gentleman driver who typically made his wealth other places that wants to go racing and hires a young gun, which is actually really cool. I mean, as far as somebody doesn't come from a background of huge sponsorship or huge money, it's a huge opportunity,
Yeah, kind of help you both grow at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah, make it a little more attainable for normal folk.
Totally. And it is a very cool aspect of the sport. It's a very selfish sport because you're typically focusing on yourself. When we start thinking of things in like a team environment, things kind of change a little bit, especially with a gentleman driver who is still learning.
Sure.
And so you need to be both a mentor a coach, and also a friend at the same time, because you're doing this whole championship together where you go through the ups and downs, which is actually really cool.
Yeah, you kind of get to build a pretty cool rapport, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, the gentleman driver thing I know has become really big in the last, couple decades. It wasn't really that way, I think, when racing really took off, but it's become so astronomically expensive, which is honestly a big reason why I started this whole thing, was to try and get more people into motorsports, because the high cost of entry, even into like Spec Miata and autocross and certain sports like that, you might think like, oh, what's a couple grand for a car?
Yeah.
But to somebody who is struggling to keep a comma in their bank account, that's a pretty big deal.
It's huge.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people out there like that, and so it's a challenge, I think, for people to approach this industry, and then you see a sport like, anything really, but you see any motorsport and you go like, it costs how much? Like, there's no way I could ever do that.
It's crazy.
But I really don't buy that, because I think somebody that's motivated enough to go through and go through the motions and jump through all the hoops that it takes, I think you can find the money and the support. It's hard, but it's possible.
It's absolutely possible, and it happens all the time, you have to be very creative with your sponsorship approaches. And as I'm sure you know, there's a lot of different ways you can go about that as far as raising money. And I'm not sure how in depth you want to go into that.
What are some ways that you found success raising money in the past?
Yeah, so I don't come from wealth. To be totally blunt, I come from a middle class family who did pay for my karting, and I'm extremely grateful for that.
That counts for a lot, by the way, because there's a lot. We were talking about this earlier. There's a lot of people that we see in the driving industry that just sort of expect success, and they expect people to bend over backwards for them. Don't be that person.
Rule number one.
Yeah.
Never.
Be grateful, because then people will want to continue helping you. Sorry to cut you off there. I just have to point that out.
And one thing about racing is that it's a team sport, and it's not just about you. If you want to make a career out of racing or even just have fun, you have to have some people behind you, whether it be your girlfriend, wife, friends, doesn't matter. You have to have some support from somebody. So some of the ways I found success, like I said, scholarships helped. But for those that are just starting out, some of the most basic ways of doing it, to me, and it's not necessarily basic, but it's relatively easy if you know the right people or you're kind of thrifty enough, is something called business to business, B2B sponsorship, which is probably the most legendary example is Chip Ganassi Racing. For those who don't know who Chip Ganassi Racing is, they've been racing NASCAR for, I don't know, forever. And they've been racing IndyCar for
30 years or something crazy, yeah.
No, they're a legendary team.
Yeah.
They are right up there with Penske, and again, Penske's a legendary team. So Chip was smart enough and had enough connections with Target. And so you might oftentimes see the Target logo on the car of a NASCAR or IndyCar. They don't put up a single dollar. Target does it for free. So how they do this is they actually go ahead and look at statistics of their end cap selling spots. So if you go into a Target and you see on the end cap of an aisle like Pepsi products or Coca-Cola products or toilet paper, the most basic things like Connell, those people have found statistics that you have, say, 40% more sales on the end cap. So what happens is Target approaches these individuals and say, well, if you want the end cap, you have to put, say, $300,000 toward a racing program. And they get, $700,000 in return or something. So it makes sense. And so oftentimes you see these little logos of Windex, Coca-Cola, etc. on these cars. And it's not just Target. Other teams have done this like Lowe's or Home Depot. And so those are some large examples. But if you start breaking it down to some of the more basic examples, whether it be your local dealership, tire supplier, and maybe a buddy of yours who is maybe selling, air fresheners, for example, if you're able to get the two connected and say, hey, if I can get, say, 2%, 5%, 10% of each sales that happen with you two during my racing, you guys can do business together, etc. So one way I found success is credit card processing company. So basically I was able to kind of link up a credit card processing company with some businesses. And so for every transaction that happens, I get a little sliver of what the pie. It's not a whole lot, but it adds up.
Yeah, sure.
And you got some B2B from some other opportunities, which are some larger examples. Basically, again, in the credit industry, which is basically helping to understand, without naming the company, which I'm not allowed to yet, basically allowing you to go and keep track of your merchandise, how much is being sold in your store. So it's a subscription-based processing. So by connecting to other companies, I get X amount of dollars from each subscription I bring over to them. So like 9%.
So you're essentially invested in these deals and these businesses succeeding.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm a middleman, essentially. Yeah. And so what do they benefit to? They get to come out to the races. That kind of sweetens the deal, right? You and your clients.
What's to stop you from just pocketing whatever they make?
Exactly. So you can, and that's part of the deal. So if you already subsidized ride, you're just getting paid for that. But for those of you that maybe are trying to find a way to go and make the deal sweeter, if you're able to go and do some sort of cool package, such as my race car can come to your shop for, say, I don't know, like a special event or grand opening, kind of sweetens it, or you get to come out to the race and I get to coach you or something. I mean, it kind of plays in a little bit. You can pocket the money, or you can actually put it toward racing and have them come out to the races, which might make the deal a little sweeter for the person.
Yeah. Sweeten it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And so B2B deals are, obviously you know this, but B2B deals are extremely popular in racing. They've become almost the norm, I would say, for a lot of teams.
Absolutely.
They're
hard.
Yeah, they're difficult to set up.
They are.
Can you? I mean, I've never actually brokered one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's an odd deal. So the credit card processing, they've been involved in racing for years. They've helped other racing drivers, such as Connor Daly, who drives IndyCar, Carlos Munoz, who also drives IndyCar. So what you see is that this company has already invested in racing. So I just naturally I met the owner on happen chance one day.
That was sweet.
And so we just talked, and I was going, hey, if there's a way for us to work together, obviously I'd love to. And so basically I was able to work together and say, these are the contacts I know. Would these have any interest to you? And they said, yeah, absolutely. These are brick and mortar stores. So that's an example. But, if you got a friend or a buddy, even at the most basic level. So that's one way of approaching sponsorship that I found success in. Another being the gentleman drivers really help subsidize the ride. And another is just pretty much have good graces. I mean, local support. I mean, I found some success in Seattle natives who want to see the next Northwest racing driver, So I found a couple businesses who want to go ahead and find ways to go ahead and find unique advertising strategies, such as bring their clients out to races. So see the cool car on the logo on the car, logo on the suit, and you get them the helmet by the end of the year, put it up on their little office. They kind of find that kind of cool, and they're supporting another racing driver. But obviously those connections are very personal. You're never going to be able to justify the cost.
So how would you... I mean, obviously you can't just find that. It's not like you can Google, like, awesome people willing to give me money.com.
Yeah.
But how important would you say your personality and your brand itself, because this is the personal branding and motorsports page
Absolutely.
Or series, how important would you say your personal brand is playing into making that actually happen?
It's huge. And there's so many different ways you can do it. Some people do it through charities. Some people are very passionate about certain causes and align themselves with those. So the car is subsidized and all the rest of the money is donated to charity, for example. But a big part, though, is your personality, how you approach things. And a big part of it, too, is social media. The way you present yourself to the public is huge.
Sure.
So what is the companies looking for? Are they looking for the next hot young stud? Or are they looking for somebody more conservative, kind of much more well-rounded, kind of a well-spoken individual? Depends on what he wants.
Right.
So
I think one of the guys that has always done that really well is Travis Pastrana. I use him for a lot of examples.
Huge.
He's amazing. But his thing is he can be, he can flip a switch. He can go from the crazy kid, and he's not a kid anymore, but
no,
he can
go
from the crazy kid that will flip bikes and is just wild and out there.
Yeah.
he's at the same time extremely genuine and friendly and outgoing, but he can go into the boardroom with people from Fortune 500 companies and flip a switch and talk marketing numbers and business and say, like, this is what it's going to take and this is how it happens and here's what we're going to do. And that is an incredible talent, and not, at least I don't think there's a whole lot of racing drivers that can really do that to a high level, on top of being good on camera and having an incredible brand.
Absolutely.
So those two things, I really believe that if you can do both of those things, you have a huge advantage over a lot of people.
Absolutely. And a big part of it, too, is your actual presentation. So if you're actually looking for, like, a standard sponsorship pitch, a personal relationship coming to a board meeting going, guys, we are going to have a really cool marketing and advertising campaign for you and your business. You got to come in with a killer presentation and actually show statistics of who actually arrives at these events.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's your local club race. It doesn't matter if it's a British Prototype Cup or drifting. I mean, quite frankly, you probably know the demographics. You can do a quick study yourself, or there's probably one already online.
Drifting is pretty straightforward. It's
exactly.
Basically like 15 to 25, and they're all male. I mean,
but how cool is that, though? I mean, that's a very specific
It's a really
niche.
young demo, which is huge for a lot of people, or a lot of businesses and brands, yeah.
And so to me, I think you coming to a boardroom with a very specific pitch, what those demographics are, if there's any coverage, well, it'd be just like your local newspaper, and even just describing some kind of your thoughts on what your level is and where you're going. If your goal is to just stay there, that's fine. Or is your goal to be the next Baja 1000 champion? Describing that and saying, I want to work our relationship over the next, say, 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 years, and grow together. I think it's huge.
Yeah, coming in with a little more foresight than just like, hey, I need money to go race.
Exactly.
I'm going to put your logo on the car. That always drives me nuts.
That's crazy.
How many times and I have to ask you this because you've dealt with a lot different, of a very different industry than I have. How many times have you heard that a sponsor really cares about having a big logo on the car?
They have never cared about a big logo on their car. That's the thing. Even these companies and individuals who are giving a lot of money don't even really care about their logo on the car because they want to be associated with you, or they get come out to these races, or even just helping out a local native. I mean, from Seattle area or wherever you're from, Denver or Boston. So to me, I mean, just making a cool experience is the biggest thing out of it.
So what do you think would be, assuming that that's the case and these companies don't really care so much about the branding that they have on the car, on your suit or your helmet or website or whatever, what is it that they do care about? What entices them to take part in a partnership?
The biggest thing I found is the actual experience itself. So I've even sold individual packages for experiences, quote unquote. So the experience could include, and this is a far out example, but you can do as little or as big as you want. One example I had, which I've done, is you get a 5-day long experience at the racetrack, and you get to fly out, not airfare not included, and you got your rental car to pick you up, you're driven to your hotel, you got 5 days for free, you got a nice dinner with the team and the driver and the manager all together, and it's kind of a cool atmosphere. You got the whole team, the mechanics, the engineer, the driver. I mean, they feel a part of the team. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. You have to make them feel a part of the team. Because oftentimes, anybody can get a suite access, right?
Yeah.
I can buy a ticket tomorrow if I want to for like $1,000 for, I don't know, Daytona 500. What they can't buy is being in the pit lane and throwing down the little board for the car to come up. They can't buy that. That's something only you can offer. So basically, we offered hotel rooms, come out to the racetrack, get to be part of the team. You actually get to work with the engineers in the car. They actually showed you this is a certain part on the car. This is how we replace the whole tranny and engine. This is how we replace this. And people are completely awed by it. Even just sitting in a race car, people are in awe. It's so cool, right? I mean, for us, all of us were maybe used to that environment.
I still geek out. Like when we saw we were in Daytona and we saw Jeff White, who I did the Smoking Tire podcast with. He and I saw one of the AMG GT cars that
So cool.
Gunnar
Jeanette
drove the year prior.
Yeah.
And it was funny because like I've worked with Gunnar, and so I saw him.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm like, oh shit, that's Gunnar's car.
That's so
No
cool,
way,
dude.
But
Isn't it cool though?
It's wild. And I saw that thing, and I got in it, and the lady who was there running it was super awesome, and we got in, and we were just, I'm geeking out.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to sitting in cars that are like, to give you an idea, the absolute top level drift cars in the world.
Yeah.
Are like $200,000 to $300,000.
Okay.
All right, so that is nothing in like professional motorsports teams.
But I mean, pro drifting is pro. It
is, yeah. That's now
but,
mine is nowhere near that. Most people's cars are nowhere near that. At like an amateur level, people are around like 10.
Is ridiculous. 10,000.
Oh, it's absurd.
10,000 is still absurd. I mean, it is a lot of money. It's not absurd, but it is a lot of money.
It is, yeah. And I think it's a shame that a lot of people say like, well, look at what you could be spending, because even though that's true, it's still that like. If $10,000 is unattainable for somebody who's trying to get into motorsports, like telling them that, well, you could be spending $1 million, that doesn't make it any more attainable for them. Like, yeah,
doesn't help.
So it's true that some of these cars are really wildly expensive, but one thing that's always fascinated me is if you look at the different levels of motorsports. Like you said several times. When we chatted earlier, when I forgot to turn the mic on. But you mentioned, you can pick up a really well set up Miata.
Yeah.
And go spec racing with a Miata. And that is relatively easy to do, relatively affordable. Like
Absolutely.
Under 10 grand easy.
You can find one of those cars anywhere. I don't care where you live in the country. You can find one.
So it's possible to do. If you want to just get into, like Montana, we don't really have racing events. We have a couple types of racing events. We have drag racing.
Mm-hmm.
We have circle track, which is not paved. It's dirt. Or I don't even know if we have a clay track.
That's actually pretty cool. The Legends cars.
Yeah,
and stuff.
those are sweet.
Oh yeah.
But we have circle track. We have roundy round, and we have drag racing.
That's great.
We have autocross. And autocross, I think, is arguably the cheapest way to get into driving.
Absolutely.
You might not get like a ton of seat time. I mean, where we live, there's maybe 20, 30 cars that come out, so you can spend, your $40 to $60 or whatever it is.
Oh, it's easy.
And you can drive for, 30 laps.
And it doesn't matter what car you have, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you can drive almost anything.
Exactly, yeah. You can pretty much show up with like it's literally almost anything, as long as you pass a basic tech inspection.
Exactly.
But that, to me, is a great way to get into it, because you don't necessarily have to, like, for the price of a tank of gas, you can go drive your car as hard as you want in a competitive environment. So I recommend that to people a lot. But the big challenge, I think, comes from how do you go from that to the next step, which might be like club racing.
Yeah.
So bringing in the sponsor dollars, I think, is huge. But, how can you... The B2B stuff, I think, is a great opportunity. It's just that you have to know the right people, you have to find the right people. So, I mean, any suggestions for people on where to look for that sort of thing?
Yes, I mean, to be totally honest, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but the easiest way of doing this is looking at your phone contacts, as I have done before, and I go, gosh, who do I know? So, even if it's just a local business, and another buddy who maybe owns another business, or some sort of, like, tire dealership, for example, and a guy who's, actually, this is a great example. There was a guy who, this is actually from hydroplane racing, okay?
Yeah, those are so gnarly.
Oh, so gnarly. Yeah, so gnarly. But this is actually a great example. This is Jimmy Shane. Love the dude to death. Or used to drive the Alberta boat. Good family friend. So the guy was given a case of something like 5,000 vitamin waters, okay? Like, they didn't actually have any money. This is like back when they were starting out. They're like, well, we can give you like some vitamin waters. We kind of want to bring our people out. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll take the 5,000 vitamin waters. And he sold it. I mean, wasn't a whole lot of money, but even from something like that, he was able to sell the vitamin water and get, I don't know how much he got out of it, probably like $1,000, $2,000 or something like that. And he put it toward, the staff budget for the weekend, or tires, or fuel, or transportation. So something like that, or even somebody just donated you stuff, like wholesale, and you just kind of sold it to another business. Something like that is pretty easy. Not easy, but if you know the right people, or maybe look in your contact book and go, who can kind of help me out? Even if they don't want to give me money, what can they offer me that I can sell somebody else?
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it makes sense. I mean, I like.
And it's not easy. I'm not going to argue that it is.
I don't think any of this is easy.
No, but
it's possible.
It's totally possible. And so for me, if I'm not in the race car or working or basically being busy, I'm at every single car show I can go. Every single time. And I personally pimp myself out. The whole Andrew Evans Racing shirt and everything, dude. I mean, like, I'm shameless about this. I come with the brochures, put it on people's cars. I've got no shame, honestly. I am personally branding myself. And so a cool thing is eventually people are like, oh, yeah, it's that Andrew kid. Like, oh, yeah, I've seen him at the other auto show. But, you know, stuff like that, even if it's just like your local Cars and Coffee, and you get to align yourself with people or get to know people, it's a small community. And, you know, you might meet some people who might be able to give you 5,000 vitamin waters or have a credit card processing company. I mean, you'd be surprised. People, yeah.
Yeah, I love the idea of going through the phone. I think so many people, I think we know more people than we realize. The other thing I would say is don't lose your fucking phone. You know, how many people have we had that come by and they're like, oh, dude, I lost your number. Like, you know, send me, I'm on Facebook and I'm like, oh, I lost my phone. Like, send me your number or something. Like, no, those are contacts. Those are valuable. Like, dude, that's more valuable than the damn phone.
People change their phone number all the time. And that's like crazy to me. I'm like, gosh, dude, how can people get a hold of you just in case? I don't know.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, so those are two minor takeaways. Don't lose your phone, back up your contacts, and don't change your phone number unless you absolutely have to. Like if someone's threatening to kill you or something, that's probably all right.
Yeah, exactly right.
But yeah, no, that's wild. So, well, all right, I guess to maybe wrap things up here, you've obviously had some really good success. Obviously, wish you the best of luck. Great dude, by the way. But last, like, just three quick little tips for anybody looking to build their own brand to help find sponsors.
So I think the first and the most important one, don't be afraid to pimp yourself out, honestly. Like I was saying earlier, don't be shameful to go and walk around with your own branded t-shirt. It costs like $15, guys, to buy a t-shirt, and like $5 to get embroidered. It's not that big of a deal. And, you know, just walk around, introduce yourself, and understand who's in the community and who can maybe help you out. And then two, probably one of the most important ones, make sure to go ahead and find value in your products. It doesn't matter if it's selling vitamin water or if it's finding a cool experience for a customer, whether it be donating your helmet at the end of the season for like an auction item at like their favorite charity, or coming out to the racetrack. Stuff like that, find your value, align yourself with it. Then three, just keep working at it. I mean, it's not easy. I send probably, at a minimum, 3 emails and 2 phone calls a day for sponsorship. And that's not enough. You gotta just keep working it. And to me, and then I am dealing with some high dollars, but even at the local level, it's totally possible. And almost everybody can actually do it. Just a matter of putting in the hours and kind of getting some creative thinking.
Sweet. I love it, man.
Cool.
Well, thanks a lot, dude. Always a pleasure to see you. Best of luck to you and everything, and we'll see you again soon, all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, so you guys can find me on my website, andrewevansracing.com, or you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. Just look up Andrew Evans Racing.
Sweet, man.
Cool.
Well, best of luck to you, and we'll catch you again soon, all right?
Thank you.
You guys, keep moving forward. Do your thing. Get out there. Follow some good advice from a man who's done it, and we'll hopefully continue to do it. When's your next race, by the way?
April, actually. First race season for me.
All right. So it's coming up, and definitely catch them when you can. Hopefully I'm sure it'll be on TV somewhere. But anyway, yeah, really, really awesome guy. So make sure you guys are following some good advice from this young gentleman here. And get out there. Do what drives you. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!
Thanks, guys.
Oh shit! We missed the whole first part of the fucking.
Way.
Yeah, all right.
No worries. We can totally start over that because I was not very good with the way.
All right. Well, we're way more comfortable now.